Hi, welcome to our debate project. This is SPCE 619, Section 806. Here are the members of this debate. My name is Sheryl Klus. This is Nancy Mancilla.
Hello.
Kori Petsch. Cierra Barton.
Hi.
Brianna Blancovich.
Hello.
And Amber Templeton.
Hello.
The topic of today's debate is school-wide positive behavior support is sometimes considered to be an application of applied behavior analysis. Other behavior analysts see it as watered down ABA, and some behavior analysts see it as in conflict with ABA. We're going to consider the fundamental components of the process of school-wide positive behavior support and applied behavior analysis and determine what we see the relationship as. Our group will be conducting a formal debate. My name is Sheryl Klus, and I will be your moderator. We will be conducting our debate between the relationship of school-wide positive behavior support and applied behavior analysis. We will be debating different concepts within both and seeing if, in fact, applied behavior analysis and positive behavior support has a connection or if it is watered down ABA. I will introduce us as our roles next. So our formal roles are, as I stated, I am your moderator and I will maintain the flow of the debate. I will also keep time. I am also the pro stater. I will state the position taken by the pro side. Amber Templeton is our pro prover. She will cite relevant research to support the pro stater. Kori Petsch is our pro attacker. She will probe the con side for weakness. Our con stater is Cierra Barton. She will state the position taken by the con side. Our con prover is Brianna Blancovich. She will cite relevant research to support the con stater. And Nancy Mancilla is our con attacker. She will probe the pro side for weakness. Each participant will have 1 to 2 minutes to make their point. Participants may not interrupt each other and must wait until the time limit is over. The time will be ended when participants hear this sound. Utilizing the timer on my cell phone, once the timer is sound, each participant must wrap up their information and move on to the next participant. Okay. So our first topic is the relationships of school-wide positive behavior support are intertwined with applied behavior analysis. Okay. So school-wide positive behavior support is built on the foundations of applied behavior analysis. It attempts to utilize a multi-tiered system to promote significant behavioral and emotional change within a school system. According to Fairburn, Tyre, and King, school-wide positive behavior supports define, teach, and acknowledge desired school-wide positive behavior, while also defining and applying consistent consequences for violations of school rules. All staff and students know what these expectations are across all school settings. I'm going to screen share my screen, and I will display a matrix of school-wide expectations that are provided to students and staff have collaborated on. The school-wide expectations are respect yourself, others, and space, and they are applied in every setting of the school. Some examples are the hallway, the bus, and the bathroom. The next visual displays expectations for the students in visuals and with text. This way, all students can access what the expectation should be in each location. This type of support in a school system allows educators and paraprofessionals to reinforce students for well-desired behaviors. These behaviors are specifically defined as well as non-examples of these behaviors. Behaviors can be reinforced on items such as this: a punch card where students' behavior is recognized by getting a punch in the card, and they can turn it in for a reward at the end. Bear, Wolf, and Risley have provided us with 7 dimensions of applied behavior analysis, which depicts how applied research differs from other types of research. A behavior analyst is concerned with socially significant behaviors that change in order to improve the quality of life of the client. Okay, I will just wrap it up here. The behavior in students in school setting is in fact socially significant, which impacts the ability and the quality of life of all students in that school setting. This multi-tiered system with its explicitly defined expectations and consequences align easily with the principles of applied behavior analysis. We will move on to Cierra.
Okay, thank you, Sheryl. So as previously mentioned, Bear, Wolf, and Risley have provided us with the 7 dimensions of ABA. However, school-wide positive behavior support does not meet all 7 criteria. You will hear from our side how school-wide positive behavior support does not meet the generality or technological dimensions. Next, according to Carr et al., school-wide positive behavior support emphasizes antecedent strategies. However, ABA considers both antecedents and consequences in its interventions. Last, one of the core ethical principles, according to Kuchar and Keith Spiegel, is to promote autonomy, where a student does not need a mediator. However, autonomy is not always possible in the classroom, where there will always be a mediator, a teacher. Next, you will hear from Amber.
In regards to what Sheryl mentioned, I would like to discuss further the details of school-wide positive behavioral support, which I'm going to refer to as SWPBS. There is both foundational and supporting information showing that SWPBS implementation is grounded in the behavioral and prevention sciences and emphasizes within a multi-tiered support system framework. That framework is made up of measurable outcomes, evidence-based practices, implementation systems, and data for decision-making. I would also like to share the background of ABA and SWPBS through the decades, according to Bear, Wolf, and Risley, 1968. In the 1950s, B.F. Skinner actually applies scientific approach to the study of behavior. In the 1960s, applied behavioral analysis actually started. ABA principles influenced the development of a number of academic instructional practices, such as direct instruction, curriculum-based measurement, and methods of precision teaching. In the 70s and 80s, ABA was enhanced by positive behavioral support, which emphasizes social validity factors. This involved family members, coworkers, and friends of those with behavioral challenges. In the 1990s, PBS and ABA perspectives moved to general education. This was possible because of the recognized success in individual behavior support had through ABA studies. Because of the effectiveness, efficiency, and relevance, Hill, Walker, and colleagues brought about school-wide positive behavioral support. SWPBS was based on the framework of sound conceptual theory and prevention. Long story short, SWPBS came from ABA and has shown promising results. Brianna?
Thank you, Amber. As Cierra mentioned, we will first discuss that SWPBS does not meet all 7 dimensions of ABA, according to Bear, Wolf, and Risley in 1968. SWPBS is in place in all areas of a school, including hallways, classrooms, cafeteria, and schoolyard. Although schools typically progress through similar steps in the program, the specifics of the program likely will vary across schools. So if a child changes schools, it may be more different. There's no plan put in place for them to generalize what they've already learned. It is not clear whether or not families are given the information about their positive behavior support system. They may just receive the basic rules and how their child's doing, but they are not given the actual information on how to implement that at home. The only time the parents become more involved is when a child requires an individual support plan, which is not it's not clear what that criteria is. The technological dimension is also not met. If PBS is equivalent to or derived from ABA, then PBS practitioners should also master the full array of basic competencies in ABA. The requirements of the BACB, or the Behavior Analyst Certification Board, specify that ABA practitioners must exhibit both sophisticated approach to functional assessment and a firm grounding on operant conditioning and behavior change methods. Teachers are not required to receive that extensive training. SWPBS emphasizes on antecedent strategies only. Antecedent manipulations made in the classroom cannot and may not occur in other settings at all times. This is not effective in eliminating behaviors. ABA promotes autonomy of the individuals, giving the children the ability to eventually regulate their behaviors independently over time. The teacher is expected to always be a monitor in the classroom, at times monitoring 20 to 30 children in one room, not leaving sufficient time to modify each child's behavior in order to create autonomy for them in the future. And now to Kori.
Thank you, Brianna. In reference to generality, according to an article published in the Behavior Analyst by Cynthia M. Anderson and Donald Kincaid, SWPBS has been implemented in several different settings, such as rural environments, urban settings, and several different schools with varying grade levels. The success of the program suggests good generalization to multiple settings with several different subjects. The study does mention the need for more data to prove generalization, but this study shows much promise in the area of generalization. SWPBS is thought to be part of the natural evolutionary process of ABA and is the next frontier in the field. If a field fails to meet new demands or incorporate new technologies, it runs the risk of becoming obsolete. According to Bear, Wolf, and Risley, the fourth dimension of behavior analysis is technological. This means that procedures are clearly defined or completely identified and described. Implementation of goals in SWPBS is very precise and well-defined and requires that the team determine 3 to 5 behavioral expectations and present them to the staff to ensure at least 80% of the staff are in agreement. Consistency from class to class and adult to adult is very important for successful implementation of SWPBS. The team will create a matrix in which the expectations are operationally defined. This is then shared in which with staff and requires an 80% agreement for implementation. The following visual represents the fourth dimension of behavior analysis, as well as BACB Compliance Code 2.09, Treatment, Intervention, and Efficacy. You can see over the course of time from 2007 to 2010, there, as far as the total suspension days served, it was lowered by 38%, and total suspensions were lowered by 39%. Thank you very much. And moving back to Sheryl, is that correct?
It's me, Nancy. So I'm the attacker, and as regards to SWPBS, focuses on implementing interventions mainly in school settings, as opposed to ABA that generalizes to different settings and people. Let me screen share my PowerPoint here real quickly. So an article by Anderson and Kincaid states also that SWPBS have only been implemented in different school levels. That means that only PBS has been implemented like elementary and middle school and high school, and they can't really generalize into any other settings such as at home or out in actually in the community. And as was previously mentioned before, if they were to switch schools, every school probably has different rules and regulation, and they can't generalize it to every school that they attend. An article by Beowulf and Risley state that ABA and behavioral change may be said to have generality if it proves durable over time. And this is related to Code 2.09, Treatment, Intervention, Efficacy. clients have the right to effective treatment. Effective treatment procedures have been validated as having both long-term and short-term benefits to clients and society. PBS is used in those not trained in ABA. So pretty much those people who use PBS are just staff that are taught how to implement it, and they just get like a small training before. This violates the Bear and Wolf article, where they talk about technological, how the interventions may not be technologically written in relation to Code 1.0, maintaining competence through professional development, how behavior analysts maintain knowledge of current scientific and professional information in their areas of practice and undertake ongoing efforts to maintain competence by attending conferences and conventions. Behavior analysts, even after completing their degree, they still have the responsibility and ethics to continue to gain more knowledge and new material and research in the field. And I will take it next to Sheryl, who's our pro stater.
Thanks. We're going to wrap up topic number 1 for the pro stater side. Although PBIS does not address generality of skills outside of the school setting, it does address generality across individuals in that setting. There are a multitude of individuals that implement PBIS in a school system. Paraprofessionals, teachers, janitors, principals, cafeteria workers that these children need to generalize to. The PBIS expectations are the same in each setting of the school: the bathroom, the bus, playground, cafeteria, etc. This allows for generalization of those skills. In regards to the staff, they receive an intensive yearly training to make sure that they are the most up-to-date on practices. Members of the PBIS team receive training from highly qualified professionals and relay that information to the staff within their school. We'll move on to Cierra to conclude the con side for this topic.
Okay, thank you, Sheryl. While school-wide positive behavior support may focus on socially significant behaviors, it does not meet the 7 criterion of ABA as defined by Bear, Wolf, and Risley. It does not meet the generality criteria because it does not promote generalization across multiple settings and people. It also fails to meet the technological criteria. According to Johnston et al., PBS is not used by those trained in ABA. Therefore, interventions may not be technologically written. Last, while ABA promotes the autonomy of the individual, autonomy is not possible in a classroom setting. And next, you will hear from Sheryl, who will introduce our next topic.
Topic number 2 is school-wide positive behavior support includes all students, and all students can benefit from the generalization of positive behavior support in the entire school. School-wide positive behavior support is a multi-tiered system that allows all students to access behavior support and positive reinforcement. The bulk of students, 80%, are serviced in the Tier 1 of this system. All students receive the same type of reinforcement at this level. As students exhibit more intensive behaviors and data shows that they are not responding to that intervention, they begin to move up the tiers. Tier 3 is the most intensive tier that only services about 5% of the student population. Students in this tier have individualized behavior plans. In my previous example, all students have a punch card. They will earn punches on their card for positive behavior. When the child earns 10 punches, they are able to cash that card in for a larger incentive. Such incentives include school-wide events such as Minute to Win It games, Extra Recess, and Zoomathon. Okay, and we will move to Cierra.
It was previously stated that school-wide positive behavior support is accessible to all students. However, we must question whether it really includes all students. What about those with severe disabilities or those who do not respond to the principles of reinforcement and punishment? Next, it was mentioned that in Tier 1, all students receive the same type of reinforcement. However, ABA calls for highly individualized programs as laid out in Code 4.03, Section A. You will now hear from Amber.
In accordance with what Sheryl mentioned, research shows that school-wide positive behavior supports can be an effective alternative to the traditional punitive approaches to problem behaviors. The theories that underpin SWPBS are based on long-standing proven practices in the fields of education and behavior. This includes ABA, differentiated instruction, and database decision-making. A research article by Nocera, Whitebread, and Nocera, 2014, describes the efforts of a low-performing middle school in establishing preventative measures and interventions within such a framework. Results indicated that there was a reduction in teacher discipline referrals and student suspensions. This includes students with disabilities, and overall they showed significant improvement on 30 out of 47 items of the student resiliency surveys. The school's state mastery tests in both reading improved by 25% and in math by 11%. This study suggests that the implementation of SWPBS framework can result in improved academic and behavioral outcomes for all students. The topic of mental health and students with disabilities are also addressed. It was stated by Sugai and Horner, 2002, that because of the roots of PBS are in applied experimental analysis of behavior, the evidence for PBS at this time is primarily derived from single subject designs. This research, while not in the traditional empirical mode, is nevertheless rigorous, generalizable, and strong in social validity. Therefore, administrators have a preponderance of evidence to support their exploration of PBS as a viable model for school-based mental health programs. Brianna?
Thank you, Amber. So although SWPBS is a three-tier system of smaller groups within a school and also individuals, not all schools have the capability to support children with the one-to-one recommended services that they need. Understanding the difference between punishment and reinforcement requires training in ABA and understanding ABA core principles. Teachers without experience in implementing reinforcement and punishment strategies could potentially do more harm than good. Research shows that while implementing punishment, a child must be given an alternative appropriate behavior. Teachers are not qualified as a BCBA or other ABA professional to determine what that appropriate behavior is and when punishment should be implemented. With that being said, it is common in schools to implement punishment procedures such as giving a child detention, separating them from the classroom, or drawing attention to them for their behaviors in front of classmates. These are typical procedures maintained in a classroom environment. BACB Code 4.03 Section A states that behavior programs require minimum conditions such as stable environments, control over reinforcers, consistency in delivery of consequences, and cooperation of key parties to be effective. Key parties also include parents. The research is not clear whether SWPBS include parents in their interventions and to what level. Also, if teachers are not required to take part in the same training as behavior analysts, they are not educated in consistently delivering appropriate consequences. And now to Kori.
Thank you, Brianna. I'm just trying to pull up a screen here. Let's see. Is that visible? Okay. There is a provision embedded into the structure of this system, Tier 3, to identify individuals who require more intensive one-to-one attention to receive the individualized attention they need. There is extensive and ongoing training of several school staff members to implement behavior support plans. Individuals needing one-to-one support have a provision for this service written into their plan. PBS is a system model for behavior management that evolves beyond punitive, restrictive responses and encourages positive reinforcement and teaching approaches that assist in expanding an individual's behavior repertoire. Caldera et al., 2011. According to the 2007 PBS standards practice at the individual level, there is an understanding that behavior serves a function, and it states in Section D, Part 6, that replacement behavior should be taught based on competing behavior analysis. Part 6, Section E of the PBS Standards of Practice emphasizes natural reinforcement whenever possible and requires the use of at least the least intrusive behavior reduction strategy. Restraint or isolation are only used in the SWPBS model to prevent harm to the individual or others. Nonviolent crisis intervention is a program that has been used successfully for over 35 years and only teaches the use of restraint as a last resort. The focus of NCI is on prevention. Certification and regular refresher courses are a requirement of NCI. I think that my computer screen is frozen here. So according to Ethics Code 7.0, I can't see my card here. It would be to protect others from harm. So it would be considered to be unethical if there were not provisions in place to protect the client and other individuals from harm. And I'll go ahead and move it back to Nancy. Thanks. I can't share anything. I think we're frozen.
Okay. Thanks, Kori. So SWPBS focuses in school-wide system of monitoring student behavior, not individual like ABA does. This is in relation to Code 3.01, Behavior Analytic Assessment, conducting assessments prior to developing behavior change programs according to the client's needs and consent. So even though SWPBS does have different tiers, it doesn't really include everyone that has disabilities. And according to an article by Kennedy, 2004, mentions either includes some or most individuals with disabilities. And in relation to ABA, focuses in every client's individual behaviors, and interventions are custom made just for them. So PBS only does interventions that covers the whole school, and not every kid is able to be able to follow those rules and regulations, as opposed to ABA, that behavior analysts actually tailor each behavior change programs to each client's unique behaviors. Now, next to Sheryl.
To wrap up topic number 2 on the pro side, school-wide positive behavior support looks at data in an analytic way and utilizes it to further drive the change in practice of the school. Although students with disabilities may not fully grasp the Tier 1 intervention, they are able to participate with their typically developing peers, which is highly valuable in an inclusion model, which many schools are leaning towards these days. To Cierra.
It was mentioned that in PBS, only 5% of students receive an individualized behavior plan. However, in ABA and referenced in Code 4.03a, 100% of students are required to receive an individualized behavior plan. In summation, SWPBS focuses on school-wide behavior, while ABA calls for highly individual programs and focuses on the behavior of the individual. School-wide positive behavior support also does not include all students. Sheryl will now introduce our next topic.
Topic number 3 states that all staff members are able to implement school-wide positive behavior and contribute to student reinforcement. All staff members in a school are able to participate in this process. All staff members will be utilizing the same language when providing students with reinforcement and when utilizing punishing procedures. The following visual display shows that are clips from a handout that staff members have been presented in a training. These slides depict explaining the punch card system to staff and the language to utilize when delivering reinforcement. So it explains why, who, where, what, and when of the punch card system, as well as how a student should be getting card and how you should say when you're delivering reinforcers. Staff trainings can be easily given to staff during scheduled in-service days, so that all staff are aware of the principles of school-wide positive behavior. They are experts after these in services. This other visual is images from a PowerPoint that have been utilized at staff trainings and in services to teach staff about positive school-wide behavior support. Okay, and we will move on to Cierra.
So we must first question whether staff members who implement school-wide positive behavior support are acting outside of their area of expertise. This is referenced in Code 1.2a. Next, it is required by Section 1.03 that all staff members participate in ongoing training of scientific information. The guidelines of training shown do appear to be watered-down ABA and are not scientific or technological. You will now hear from Amber.
Thanks, Sierra. As Sheryl mentioned, all staff members are able to implement PBS and have provided provide reinforcement after thorough training procedures, which involve, one of the trainings is establishing a PBS team, which includes administrative support, regular meetings, and establishing a clear mission and purpose. Also training on discussing faculty commitment, which involves faculty being aware of all behavior problems across the campus and establishing and reviewing goals. On effective procedures, which includes documentation procedures, discipline referral forms, and defining minor and major behaviors so everyone understands them. Also training on data entry and analysis planning, where data is entered weekly and data is analyzed monthly, and all data is shared with all faculty monthly. Also training on the expectations and rules to be developed, which includes 3 to 5 positively stated school-wide expectations that should be posted around the school. The expectations apply to both students and the staff, and the rules are linked to the expectations. They also train on rewards and recognition programs, which involve a variety of methods that are used to reward the students, and the rewards are varied to maintain the students' interest. They're also trained on lesson plans for teaching expectations. This includes lessons that use a variety of teaching strategies, developing strategies to reinforce the lessons with families, and that parents are strongly encouraged to participate in this entire training process. They're also trained on the implementation and crisis planning. This involves the implementation process so that it's understood in both the classroom and home-based instruction. Also teaching how to respond to crisis situations, and then they rehearse these situations to ensure that all faculty understand. They also teach about the evaluation process, which involves documenting appropriately and the staff using the reward system appropriately, and that all outcomes are documented to use to evaluate the PBS plans for future use. Brianna?
Thank you, Amber. So there brings up the major concern of, are these school staff members implementing outside of their expertise? As I stated previously, school staff members are not required to follow BACB guidelines by not having extensive training in ABA and appropriate supervision to fill out that training, which leads to my next point of teachers not being required to participate in the same continuing education and seminars ABA professionals would be. They are not required to stay relevant in ABA by attending conferences and reading new journals and new research. This violates both ethics codes 1.02a and 1.03. Boundaries of competence by implementing ABA techniques outside of their education and experience, and 1.03, maintaining competence through professional development. And now to Kori.
Thank you, Brianna. As far as boundaries of competence and maintaining competence, they're addressed in the first standard of the PBS standards of practice for the individual level. Foundations of PBS, Section D of this standard state, practitioners applying PBS with individuals commit themselves to ongoing rigorous professional development. This professional development includes pursuing continuing education, as well as in-service training, reading peer-reviewed journals of the latest research, attending conferences at the local, state, and national level, seeking out collaboration opportunities, and seeking knowledge from the following empirically based fields: behavioral and social sciences and biomedical sciences. There are several training programs that offer ongoing training and support, and the APBS standards set parameters and guidelines for practitioners. PBIS.org is an amazing resource that offers many materials to assist in proper data collection and to help with ensuring fidelity. Be found on this helpful site, as well as information on training and support. I'm going to try to go ahead and share, if my screen will let me, an example of a data sheet that is used for fidelity. So bear with me. So this is an intervention fidelity checklist. So you can see where there's different interventions for setting events, antecedent interventions, teaching skills interventions, consequence interventions, and then there's a summary of fidelity for all function-based interventions. So this is just one of the materials that can be used with the SWPBS model to ensure competence and fidelity. Thank you, and I'll go ahead and move it to Nancy.
Thanks, Kori. So in regards to topic 3, all staff members being able to implement SWPBS and contribute to student reinforcement. SWPBS only uses staff that is trained only once before implementing the intervention. And in regards to Code 1.02, behavior analysts provide services, teach, and conduct research only within boundaries of their competence. And this is only them after receiving a good amount of training and experience with supervision in an area of a certain behavior. And SWPBS just considers them being already professionals into what they are in order to be able to reinforce the students. Behavior analysts take on full responsibility for the best interest of the individual, as opposed to SWPBS. They just look into the whole school, the whole area of the students instead of individually. Relation to Code 2.02 responsibility, behavior analysts have full responsibility of parties who are affected by the behavior analytic services, which includes like parents and giving them parent training, and not just the clients, but just individual instead of the whole school like PBS does. Now next, Sheryl.
So to wrap up topic number 3, staff may not be considered experts in PBIS until they complete training, but they have the ability to receive these trainings. School districts provide in-services for their teachers and paraprofessionals. Here, members of the PBIS team who are considered experts deliver instruction. These team members are also available year-round to provide consultation to staff members. Cierra will wrap up the con side.
Okay. While trainings are available to staff, staff cannot be considered experts until the completion of their training. And if they are not experts, then there is a violation of the code regarding boundaries of competence, referenced in Code 1.02a. It is also clear that the trainings themselves do not meet the requirements laid out in Code 1.03. And Sheryl will now wrap up our debate.
Before we wrap up today's debate, we have two audience questions that we need to address. I will screen share the first question, read it aloud, and then I will turn it over to Kori, who is answering that question. Okay, so our first audience question is, one argument against school-wide positive behavior support is that it does not program for generalization. Do you believe that behavior analysts adequately program for generalization based on your clinical experiences?
Okay, thanks, Sheryl. Can you guys hear me okay? When working in a more naturalistic environment, it is easier to work towards greater generalization skills as there is more natural opportunity. In a more contrived situation, such as DTT, there needs to be a program for generalization as there are not many natural opportunities in this situation. Parent education and working with different practitioners allows for an opportunity to generalize to other people, and moving to other spaces, if possible, may help to generalize to other settings. Using several examples of items such as a picture of a cup, an actual cup, and the written word cup for teaching tax in this situation can help with greater generalization. Behavior analysts are expected to include programs for generalization when they design a behavior treatment plan. As clients gain more skills, behavior analytic services can move into group settings and more opportunities for generalization can be contrived. It is all dependent on the behavior analyst creating the treatment plan. However, it states in Ethical Code 2.9, clients have a right to effective treatment based on research adapted to the client. Generalization is an important aspect of effective treatment. If treatment can in the real world, it has not been effective. To you, Sheryl.
Okay, and so thank you, Kori, for that first question. Our second question I will be addressing, and it is, do you think that having a behavior analyst as part of the school-wide positive behavior support system will resolve some of the issues you identified? Why or why not? Yes, a behavior analyst would alleviate all of the topics that we have discussed today. A behavior analyst will be acting in their area of expertise when it comes to implementing school-wide positive behavior support. They will be able to implement with fidelity principles of applied behavior analysis due to receiving the most up-to-date trainings, going to conferences, and consulting with other analysts in the field. They would actively be data collectors within the school and be able to interpret the school-wide data in order to evoke change in the behavior of students throughout the school building. Being the experts, the behavior analysts would be able to determine information or disseminate information to the staff in order to ensure that they have the most up-to-date information in regards to school-wide positive behavior. So that concludes our audience question. I would like to show our references so that everybody can see the references that we've utilized. And in conclusion, I hope everyone enjoyed today's debate. School-wide positive behavior is a very interesting system that many schools are implementing, and applied behavior analysis is scientifically based, and we know that it is a great method to evoke behavior change. Thank you for your time, and I hope everyone enjoyed it.